Hi, I'm Matt from Versa, and I'm back with another Matt's Chat. This time I'm going to be talking about my favorite albums of 2025. So I'm going to give a top 10 as well as a couple of honorable mentions. So first off, honorable mentions. 4 albums that might have been in my top 10. I think they're really strong albums. In fact, I know a couple of them would have been in my top 10. But friends made these albums. People I know made these albums. In one case, I played on one of these albums. And so I feel it would be a little bit disingenuous or dishonest to sort of rank them in with albums that are at arm's length, because I do have some kind of personal attachment to them, and I can't be totally objective in the way that I talk about them. But I did want to give a shout out to a couple of albums made by friends that I think are really strong and are really worth your time. So first one I want to talk about is the new Orion album, Into Darkness. This is the one I played on, just on the second to last song on the album. I played a little bit of flute. I was very flattered that Ben asked me to play on the album because it's really Ben's project. All of the Orion albums, Ben has played all the instruments, done all the vocals, done everything, done all the drum programming. It's his baby. I'm the first person other than him to play on it. So it was really an honor to be asked. Ben's awesome. His music is fantastic. Into Darkness is really like, if you like sort of the heavier side of progressive rock, like not progressive metal, but band like Riverside or Pure Reason Revolution or Immolecule or some Rush, where you get some big riffs, you get some hard rock and stuff, but it's not metal. That's really the sound of Orion. It plays in that kind of same sandbox. Some really strong stuff here. The Ant is great fun progressive rock instrumental. The song that I played on The Antidote to Life is really, look, I've heard that song like probably 80 times and I still love it. So I think that's a pretty good testament to its quality. Really good lyrics on that song about the way that social media dehumanizes people and the way that sort of people perform on social media in a way that is ultimately not in anybody's best interest and is very dehumanizing and anti-life. So The Antidote to Life is the name of the song. So yeah, if you like sort of heavier progressive rock, if you like strong lyrics, great guitar playing, great bass playing, good. I know Ben's a little self-conscious about his singing sometimes. I think he's a really good singer. I like his voice. Definitely check this album out. Great album. Second one is Days of Lavender. So Days of Lavender are a sort of dream pop, shoegaze, ambient duo from Vancouver. Stephen Clark and Danny. I can't remember. Sorry, Danny. I don't remember your last name right now. But they make really lovely, gentle, pretty music. Very good melodies. Danny's a wonderful singer. Really strong voice. Stephen's a great producer, bass player, synth player, and my only criticism, if you're sort of a little sensitive to things maybe being a little bit too sweet, a little bit too saccharine, I think occasionally it might cross over into that territory. But if you just want some really pretty kind of dream pop, shoegazy, ambient music to put on and just chill out to, Days of Lavender. The album's called Already Everywhere. It's a great album. It's a beautiful album. And if you're in Vancouver or somewhere around the Lower Mainland and you get a chance to go and see them live, great live performances as well. So Days of Lavender, check them out. Really good stuff. Moonletters, they had their third album come out this year, This Dark Earth. I think it's the best album that they've done so far. Really, really strong album. Classic progressive rock, a little bit of psychedelic rock influence, but really kind of, if you're into the classic 70s, like Genesis and Gentle Giant and Jethro Tull, King Crimson, Yes, that kind of thing. Moonletters is definitely working in that territory. The album ends with a 16 or 17 minute long epic that I think is just the best song they've ever done. It's so good. It's really, really nice. Great melodies, great lyrics, great production, and just that great sort of 70s prog sound. Yeah, check them out. Michael's a wonderful singer. So that's a very strong prog album. And then the last one I wanted to talk about is Old Pine. So this is Spencer and Noah have been in bands together for God, like 20 years probably. I first met them when they were teenagers, and they were in this crazy like psychedelic rock prog jazz fusion band called Redrick Sultan in Port Coquitlam, and they were all like jazz college students and in this crazy band, and they were so much fun, and so adventurous and goofy and making such interesting music. And that was like a full band at the time, and it eventually kind of worked its way down to just Spencer and Noah. And they've got this new project now called Old Pine. It's not that. It's very different from Redrick Sultan. It's instrumental acoustic guitar music, but it is very challenging. So this one is not for the faint of heart. You have to be interested in pretty out there music, I think, for this one to resonate with you. Spencer and Noah have been working with alternate tunings and different scales for a long time. It's something I used to make guitars for them, but I could never wrap my brain around how it works. So they'll play, music with 17 notes to the octave or 13 or 15 notes to the octave instead of the conventional 12 in Western scales. And so it sounds very strange. If you're not used to it, it sounds like something is very wrong. It's not. It's supposed to be that way. But once you get your head around it, once you sort of retune your ears, recalibrate yourself to music that's being played that way, it's really different. It's really striking, really beautiful music. If you want something that's both very chill and very low key, but also challenging and difficult, that's the album. Check it out. Old Pine, really good stuff. So now on to my actual top 10 list. I have it at my feet, which is why I'm poking my laptop to come back on so that I don't forget something. So number 10 is Haim, I Quit. Their last album, Haim's last album, Women in Music Part 3, one of my favorite albums of the 2020s. It's a fantastic indie rock, sort of pop, 70s singer-songwriter kind of throwback album. Beautiful songs, really focused, really strong lyrics, strong melodies, great performances, great production. And so I was really excited for the new Haim album. And I didn't actually like it very much the first time I listened to it. The lyrics didn't grab me in the same way the last album did. Some good tunes on first listen, but also just felt maybe overstuffed with ideas, kind of going all over the place, not nearly as focused as the last album. But after I gave it a few listens, I came around on it quite a bit. I like it a lot. It is not as good as Women in Music Part 3. It is kind of sprawling, kind of unfocused. The lyrics are spotty in places, but at its core, there are still some really great indie pop sort of songs, 70s singer-songwriter-y, 80s pop. Mix that all in. If you like that kind of thing, check it out. It's great. And I did end up listening to it a lot. So it made it on the list because, notwithstanding my initial concerns, my initial reaction to it, I did end up listening to it a lot. So Haim, I Quit, number 10. Number 9 is the new Antlers album, Blight. Again, like Haim, it did not click with the lyrics on this album. It's kind of a concept album about environmentalism and the ways in which we're destroying the planet and things like that. And I appreciate the sentiment, but it's a little bit on the nose. And also, it's available on vinyl, which is like the most conspicuous consumption, unnecessary kind of form of distributing music. And it feels a little bit awkward to be being lectured about environmentalism by somebody who's trying to sell vinyl records. You could easily just make it available digitally. Those concerns notwithstanding, the music on Blight is stunning. Pete Silberman has a beautiful voice. He's got a beautiful way with melodies. It feels like every Antlers album gets more stripped down, more pared back. This album, pretty much every song is just Pete at the piano or with a guitar and very sparse drums, and that's it. And the songs are musically so strongly written that they keep your attention, they engage you, even if it's just a voice and a guitar, a voice and a piano and drums. The opening song, Consider the Source, is just one of the most beautiful songs of the year. Really beautiful, really lovely music. So if you don't mind getting lectured to a little bit about environmentalism, check this out, because other than that, it is a fantastic album. Beautiful listen. So the Antlers Blight is number 9. Number 8 is the new Lunatic Soul album, The World Under Unsun. So this is Marius Duda from Riverside. It's his sort of one of his solo projects. He's got a bunch of different things on the go. It's not clear if this is the last Lunatic Soul album. I kind of get the impression that it might be. He's talked about how the Lunatic Soul albums kind of all fit into this song cycle, and that this is the conclusion of that. So it might be the end of Lunatic Soul. Be interesting to see what Marius does next, because I think Riverside might be on pause at the moment. Lunatic Soul might be done. So he's got a wide open future in front of him. I'm really curious to see what he does, because he's one of my favorite songwriters and musicians. This album, really, solid. It's a double album, but both sides of the double album are fairly short, so it's not actually too much of an overwhelming listen. I think it probably could have all fit on one CD if he'd really wanted it to. And Lunatic Soul, I think, is often Marius's avenue for exploring like different kind of genres with each release. There's Walking on a Flashlight Beam is sort of the post-rocky one, Through Shaded Woods kind of the folky one. Like each Lunatic Soul album seems to sort of focus on a particular sound, and on this one, it feels more like an aggregate of the different things that Lunatic Soul has been. There are songs that are like kind of the colder, more sterile post-rock style of something like Walking on a Flashlight Beam. There's the folkier ones that sound a little bit more like Through Shaded Woods. There's some that bring in like really good sax playing on this album that calls to mind like Thousand Shards of Heaven. Just very consistently good. It doesn't rock out like Riverside does. There's not big riffs and things like that, but really solidly written songs, beautifully arranged. His singing on this album is fantastic. Marius has a really beautiful voice, and he uses it very well on this record. So World Under Unsun, number 8. Number 7 is IQ's latest album, Dominion. So I got to hear this album a little bit early because they were on Cruise to the Edge and they were selling albums before it was officially released. Saw them perform some of it as well. IQ, I think, have become one of the most consistent bands in progressive rock. They weren't always that way. After their first couple albums, they had some lineup changes. They had some label issues, things like that. And, there's some inconsistency in their late 80s and 90s output. But in the 21st century, pretty much everything they've done has been excellent. Dark Matter is a fantastic album. Road of Bones is fantastic. Their last album, Frequency, was really, really good. And Dominion continues that trend. Just very solid, consistently excellent neo-progressive rock music. I think IQ often gets compared to Genesis, and there's certainly an element of that in their sound. They came out of the same scene as Marillion. They share some elements of their sound with Marillion as well, but they have a little bit of a darker quality to their music. They've got a little bit more of groove to their sound, and sometimes a little bit of almost a goth rock quality, like those early 80s Cure, Echo and the Bunnymen, like that kind of sound. Not really prominent, but it's just kind of bubbling away under the surface, that gives IQ their own identity. And I think Dominion really, it sounds like IQ. It's very definitively an IQ album. The title track, No Dominion, is really fantastic song, and the whole rest of the album is just excellent. So if you like IQ, it's another IQ album. You know what you're getting, but it's a really good one. And if you're not familiar with IQ, it's as good a place as any to start, I think. No Dominion, Dominion. The song is No Dominion. The album is Dominion, by IQ, is number 7 on my list. So number 6 is Abstract Illusion, The Sleeping City. This is, I think, probably my favorite progressive metal album of the year. There's some harsh vocals on this album, so if that's not your thing, be warned. But it's not all harsh vocals. There's a nice mix of harsh and clean vocals. I have kind of a funny personal history with this band. My friend Sean sent me one of their songs like 5 years ago, and I listened to it and was like, this is awesome. I should check more of these guys out. And I never did. and then the new album came out. Sleeping City comes out, and I was like, oh, I remember Sean sent me a song by these guys, and I really liked it. So I listened to this album, and it's awesome. It's I'm going to describe it in a way that makes it sound like Opeth, but they don't sound anything like Opeth. And but they really do that kind of really heavy, big riffs, harsh vocals, and then you pull back and you're into something just delicate and beautiful and clean. And you know, that sort of contrast that Opeth does really, really well. I think Abstract Illusion does it just as well. And it really makes the heavier parts feel heavier. It makes the delicate parts feel more delicate. But they don't sound like Opeth. They're not they don't have that kind of just guitars and kind of folky Jethro Tull elements to the delicate parts. And it's more like keyboards and synth driven. Very different approach to melody. But, you know, catchy songs, really, you know, you can really groove to the songs. Like, they're fun to listen to, which, you know, sometimes a really heavy progressive metal is not the most fun to listen to, but this album is fun. It's fun, it's melodic, it's heavy. You know, if you're sort of on the fence about harsh vocals, this would be one I would check out, because they do fit them into the songs in a way that is still very musical. Which sometimes, you know, the harsh vocals are not very musical. And so they work very well in this context. So number 6, Abstract Illusion, The Sleeping City. Number 5 is We Lost the Sea, A Single Flower. This one came to me by way of rhyme signatures, so thank you, Ian. I was not familiar with this band before. We Lost the Sea are a very kind of old school post-rock band. Hear lots of elements of like Godspeed You Black Emperor, early Mogwai, bands like that in their sound. Kind of loud, soft, big crescendos, big builds in their music. A lot of repetition in the way that early post-rock would sometimes do a lot of repetition, in a way that, you know, it lulls you with these repeated themes, and then it builds them and it builds them and it builds, and then it's this, you know, big crescendo and really powerful. Some beautiful string arrangements on this album, lovely melodies, some just, you know, moments where it hits you with that crescendo, and it you know, it's like, oh yes, this is why I love post-rock music. You know, not really doing anything new in the genre, but just doing the kind of genre tropes as well as anybody does them. And so if you like kind of traditional post-rock music, really strongly recommend this album. It's a beautiful album. It's not the best sounding album. I was kind of surprised. It's not very often anymore that you hear an album that is not very well mastered. And this album is not, which is kind of surprising. It's kind of endearing, because it's so unusual to hear an album that just, like, it doesn't sound quite right. You know, the low end is it's just something kind of tubby and weird about it. I don't think it'll bother anyone who's not a nerd about that kind of stuff. And even if you are, you get over it quickly. But just a note, you know, it's not the best sounding album of the year. But it is probably the best post-rock album of the year. And as I say, you know, if you like that kind of first generation classic, early Mogwai, early Godspeed, kind of big crescendos, long drawn out kind of builds, this album does it perfectly. Really, really like it. Highly recommend it. Number 4, makes it onto the proper list, because when I first listened to this album, I did not know the artist. I've since gotten to know the artist just a little bit. He seems like a very great guy. But I did connect with this album initially without knowing the artist, so I feel it's okay to put it on the top 10 list. It's Jacob Roberge, The Passing. So Jacob is a young Quebecois progressive rock artist. This is his first album. It is phenomenal. Like, it's, I mean, you know, I am so envious of somebody like Jacob able to make this album as his first album in his 20s. Like, it's such a mature sounding album. I was not able to write music like this. You might say I'm still not able to write music like this, but I definitely was not able to write music like this when I was in my 20s. I did not have the patience. I did not have the maturity. And to hear, a work like this come fully formed from a new artist, from a young artist, from a Canadian artist, it's really inspiring. It's really impressive. The Passing, it's a classic kind of traditional progressive rock album. It gets a lot of comparisons to Neil Morse, and I think those are valid. It does have a lot in common with some of Neil Morse's solo material and Spock's Beard and things like that. So that kind of progressive rock album. It has a 30-minute epic on it called The Passing, which is just a beautiful epic, and there's no other way to describe that song. It is an epic song. One of the best songs of the year, one of the best albums of the year. Check it out if you haven't heard it. It's really fantastic. Like I say, I am deeply envious of Jacob's talent and ability to produce something like this, to have the patience and the maturity to write a work like this. It is very impressive. I can't wait to hear what he does next. It's a great record. Check it out. The Passing by Jacob Roberge is number 4. Number 3, not an album I thought would be on my top 10 list in 2025, and it's the new Jethro Tull album, Curious Ruminant. So Jethro Tull is my favorite band of all time. They've been my favorite band since I was 18. It's been a long time since they've done a truly great album, and I kind of didn't expect them to ever do one again, and that's okay. Since Ian Anderson reformed the band and started releasing albums as Jethro Tull again, he's released a couple of really totally decent albums. Like the Zealot Gene, I liked it a lot. Really good album. Rock Flute, I didn't like quite as much as the Zealot Gene, but still a very good album. Certainly not in any way tarnishing the legacy of Jethro Tull. They're good albums. They're worthwhile albums. I'm glad that he made them, but they're certainly not. They don't compare with Aqualung or Thick as a Brick or even a little bit later album like Broadsword and the Beast. Like, they're not that caliber album. And I didn't think we'd ever get a caliber album like that from Jethro Tull again. And we did. The Curious Ruminant is the best album that Jethro Tull has done at least since Crest of a Knave, possibly since Broadsword and the Beast. It is really wonderful album. The title track, Curious Ruminant, is one of the best singles the band has done. Definitely, I would say probably the best single the band's done since Steel Monkey off of Crest of a Knave. Surprisingly catchy vocal melody. I think that's something that Ian Anderson has struggled with in the 21st century, is writing good vocal melodies. And I don't think that's a talent thing. I don't think he's lost the ability. I think it's his voice. Everybody knows he has had significant vocal problems and a very diminished vocal range, which has limited his ability to write kind of interesting vocal melodies. Curious Ruminant has a really good one, and has really strong lyrics. That's been one area where he has always excelled, is his lyrics. I think Ian is one of the best lyricists in rock music. I don't think he always gets his flowers for being such a strong lyricist, but I do think he is one of the best. Curious Ruminant is a really kind of interesting and thoughtful, introspective song, which he is not necessarily known for. And then the sort of in-between stuff on the songs that come in between Curious Ruminant and the end of the album are kind of in the style of the last couple of albums, where they're good songs. They're worth listening to. They're not particularly remarkable, but they're good. But then the album ends with this phenomenal piece of music called Drink from the Same Well. And I think it originated in some jams that he did with, or some sketches that he wrote with the former Jethro Tull keyboard player Andy Giddings back in like 2007 or something like that. They've been kicking around for a while. He dusted them off, he finished them, and it's a 16.5-minute long song. It's the longest song the band has done in a really long time. It's mostly instrumental. It's a lot of just flute and piano. Ian's flute playing on this song is as good or better than it's ever been. Ian in the 70s was not a great flute player. I say this as a flute player. He did not know what he was doing. He was totally self-taught. He never took the time he never got lessons. He never consulted a fingering chart. He was doing a lot of things wrong. And the fact that he was able to get as much out of the flute as he was able to in the 70s and 80s, given the way that he was playing it, I think is pretty remarkable. He finally learned to play the instrument properly in the 90s. The story that I think I've heard him tell is that his daughter started learning flute in his school band and came home and said, "Oh, Dad, you're doing it all wrong." And so he finally learned to play properly. And since then, his flute playing has really gone to another level. There's nothing in the 70s Jethro Tull that I can't play as sort of a mid-level decent flute player, but not amazing flute player. There's lots of stuff in the more recent catalog of Jethro Tull and Ian Anderson that I would really struggle to play. And really the flute playing on this piece is next level. It is extraordinary. It is beautifully recorded. And it's just a fantastic song. It's the best song that they have done. As I say, at least since Crest of a Knave and possibly earlier. It's better than anything I thought we were ever going to get from the band again. It is one of the best songs of the year and one of the best albums of the year, and I'm very happy to say, because as I say, it is my favorite band. To get an album of that caliber from Jethro Tull in 2025, we're closing in on the 60th anniversary of Jethro Tull, and they just gave us a genuinely great Jethro Tull album. And that's awesome, and it makes me so happy to be able to say that, and I can't recommend Curious Ruminant enough. It is a great album. Number 2 on my list is the new Moron Police album, Pachinko. This was probably my most anticipated album of the year. I loved A Boat on the Sea. I discovered them, I think there was an end-of-year roundup on the Prog Report where they were talking about things that they maybe didn't cover throughout the year, and they mentioned Moron Police. And compared it favorably to the Bare Naked Ladies, who are my second favorite band of all time. and so I was like, I have to check that out. Prog band that kind of sounds like the Bare Naked Ladies. And yeah, it's their lead singer sounds a lot like Stephen Page. His approach to melody is quite reminiscent of Stephen Page. But it's like if you took Stephen Page and you made him the lead singer of Yes, and then you put Yes with Stephen Page as the lead singer in a room for a month and force them to listen to only Sonic the Hedgehog music. Like, that's what Moron Police sounds like. It's crazy. It's so much fun. It's goofy, off the wall, super melodic, super engaging. It's a concept album about a man who travels to Japan and gets turned into a pachinko machine and then launched into space, which sounds very silly. And so when you actually listen to it and find out that it's like very emotional and heartfelt and earnest, it's kind of surprising, and it's a neat juxtaposition that they're able to take such a ridiculous story and make it into something that really is emotionally impactful. There's so many great tunes. You listen to this album twice and you'll be singing along with it. The epic Pachinko is up there with Curious Ruminant, with Drink from the Same Well, and with The Passing, as one of the very best epics of the year. It's just a blast to listen to. It's an hour long. It flies by. It's so energetic. There's some great singles. They've done some really fun music videos. Okinawa Sky, which is one of the last tracks on the album, it has a really fun music video. So if you want to listen to progressive rock in 2025 that is super energetic and super fun and melodic and goofy and energetic and unexpected, they take these left turns in songs that you just would never see coming. I would never think to do that, and they veer off in this different direction. It's just great. It's really one of the best prog albums that's come out in a long time. My favorite prog album of 2025, Moron Police, Pachinko. And then number 1, not a progressive rock album, not a post-rock album, an album that I really wasn't expecting. It came out of left field for me. It was a recommendation from a young woman I work with who's always listening to music, has very diverse taste in music, and I said, hey, recommend an album to me. And she said, listen to Ethel Cain. Listen to Willoughby Tucker, I'll Always Love You. I said, okay. And I listened to the first song on YouTube, Janie, and I said, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life. And I went out and bought the album the next day. It is sort of Southern Gothic, indie folk, ambient experimental post-rock album. Like it's kind of divided into two halves. There's a first half of the album which mostly kind of shorter songs, the indie folk kind of. There's a more of a pop song, and there's an instrumental that sounds like it could be off like the Twin Peaks soundtrack. And then the back half of the album, so the first half of the album, these shorter songs, vocal driven songs, her voice is just stunning. So beautiful, really interesting, powerful lyrics. It's all a concept album about the life of this young woman named Ethel Cain, who's a fictional creation of the artist, and growing up in the 80s in the Deep South, her teenage years, falling in love for the first time, losing her friend to another relationship, things like that. Really emotionally affecting, powerful lyrics. Music that accompanies it is just gorgeous. And then the back half of the album are these long pieces, like 9, 10, 15 minutes long, that bring in elements of ambient and noise and post-rock music in a way that you might not be expecting. And it's just, the whole experience of listening to this album is really powerful. It's one of the most beautiful albums I've ever heard from any year. It is a true work of artistry. It's something that I think you should listen to regardless of your interest in or your preferences for whatever genre. You know, it's one of those albums. I don't care what kind of music you listen to, you should listen to this album. You know, if you like pop music, if you like folk music, if you like country, if you like prog rock, whatever, listen to this album. This album is a masterpiece. So Ethel Cain, Willoughby Tucker, I'll Always Love You, #1 album of 2025. Check it out. I'm Matt. I'm from Versa. Hopefully you'll listen to some Versa while you're here. All our songs are up on our YouTube channel, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And if you liked it, subscribe, and I'll be back for another one in the future. Hi, I'm Matt from Versa, and I'm back with another Matt's Corner. Not Matt's Corner, that's Scott's thing. Start again.